Hey everybody, welcome back to week 3 of our class discussion boards. So for this week, we were tasked with going through the America's Historical Imprints database and trying to find something that, like, if we were making a historical presentation on early America, how would we, what kind of sources would we use to enhance that sort of a thing? So I pretended like I was doing an presentation on early childhood education in early America, and some of the stuff I found was actually really interesting. So I pulled 3 sources, all of are primary, but 2 have to do with catechisms. So I have John Brown's A Short Catechism for Young Children, and then I have William Mavor's A Mother's Catechism, or First Principles of Knowledge and Instruction for Very Young Children. So if you don't know what a catechism is, it's basically where it's like a series of questions that you ask, and like it kind of just goes over the Christian faith and like the basic ideas behind Christianity. So that was interesting. The Mother's Catechism was honestly very similar, I thought, to like the Short Catechism for Young Children. If anything, they're actually almost exactly the same. So it's like it was kind of expected that the education of the child, be it male or female, starts with mom at home. And, mom has to be literate to be able to do this with her kids. But it was like a script of things that the mother would say to imagining that the mother was sitting down with the kids around the fireplace at night, and it literally had a little script in the beginning of like, okay, children, here's what we're going to talk about. And like the children were supposed to be like, yes, mama, like, thank you for teaching us this and that. Really interesting. But it was very much geared towards the ages of like probably 2 to 4 year olds. A Short Catechism for Young Children looked like it was kind of similar and like probably more review based than anything for kids, probably between the ages of like 6 to 10. It was kind of long, I thought, as like an educator myself. It was about 120 pages and over 200 questions that by all means it was very clear that like it was expected, like when they were asked these questions, it was a memorized response. And so that was really interesting. And even looking at some of like what I would consider the older child's reading, very much still continued the Christian aspect of things. I really did not find any non-secular kind of works, and that makes sense for the context of the time. I mean, if anyone's gone over Jasper Adams, the stuff from that, like I did my blog post on that, and there was a very big argument of like Christianity's place in early America, and I think that this kind of almost backs it up a little bit more, where there was just not really anything to do a whole lot with like children's education that didn't have to do and wasn't very heavily tied to Christianity. And in the context of early America, you've got the Puritans, you've got the Quakers, you've got the Baptists kind of starting to form themselves up, you've got the Protestants, the Catholics, all of them are coming in, and so it was a very Christian-centric nation at the time. So it makes sense that like the stuff that their kids are reading are, or being taught are Christian-based. The third piece I found was the Christian Pilgrim, containing an account of the wonderful adventures and miraculous escapes of a Christian in his travels from the land of destruction to the New Jerusalem. Really interesting. That was like a little under 150 pages. So I would say roughly, like I said, probably a 10-year-old could have read it comfortably. It had what I would have thought were like big words for a kid, but at the same time, the way they read back then was a little different. It was a little more proper, I suppose you could say. And so just really interesting, the stuff like that was very clearly being pushed and being taught as far as like in the home, starting out at a very, very young age, pushing in to, the rest of their childhood. So fascinating stuff. I think that these would have very much helped with possibly pushing like the Christian narrative in early America as, a sort of like, this is what the early childhood education looked like what the curriculum, so to speak, looked like. Really interesting stuff. I encourage you to look into it because some of these catechisms were really interesting to read through and kind of get a better understanding of like what was expected of the young Christian at the time. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good week, and I'll see you next week.